Folks, we are going to be talking about a bit of an interesting champion here tonight. So, this is a champion that you get from the Doom Tower by completing the rotations and the secret rooms and all those sorts of good things. I'm sure if you guys are looking at this guide, you know by now how you're getting this champion. So this is going to be Dark Kael. This is going to be one of the kind of upgrades to the starter champions that we have inside the game. So obviously we have the base levels, then we have like the dark versions, then we have the supreme versions, which is pretty cool, very unique. Got to give Plarium some credit there. We're going to be going through the Dark Kael kit, as well as the build, as well as things that you want to consider when you're building him. So if this kind of content appeals to you, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, as well as like the video so you get recommended it more. You can also turn on those bell notifications too. But let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. What makes him so special? First of all, looks absolutely fantastic. Super unique look to this guy. Definitely a very fitting upgrade to our baseline Kael, right? So if you look at the base skin here for Kael, then you compare that to Dark Kael, you can tell who he is. You can tell he's badass. It'd be cool if we had some skins in the game for him, but it is what it is. A1, Weaver of Woes. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 35% chance to instantly activate 2 poison debuffs or 1 poison debuff and 1 HP burn debuff. Super cool A1. We have a triple hitting A1, obviously, with each hit having a chance to do something. This gives him viability inside Fire Knight, inside Clan Boss, and so many other areas that we will discuss. A2, AoE, 100% chance of placing the big version of decrease attack. Each critical hit also has a 100% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. And then finally, we have Reality Acid, has a 100% chance of placing 3 poisons and a poison sensitivity debuff on the target for 2 turns. And he also has a passive, Delirium, decreases the crit rate of all enemies under 2 or more poison debuffs by 15%. If there are multiple champions with this skill, only his will activate. So, a lot to his kit, even though it's pretty simple. It's very simple, but also very complex at the same time. So first of all, let's talk about his passive. This is, hands down, one of the best progression passives inside the entire game. Now, why is that? Well, inside PvE, most content is going to have champions built with only 15% crit rate. So for example, Demon Lord Clan Boss, Hydra, Fire Knight, Dragon, all that, the enemies are only going to have 15% crit rate. The only exceptions are going to be now, I believe, Faction Wars Hard. There's some exceptions in there. And then also Chimera, who can stack up his crit rate as you do challenges. But everywhere else, including Sidious and Tranos, everybody's only built out with 15% baseline crit rate. That means Dark Kael can come in and he can say, hey, you're no longer going to crit my team. And this makes team building so much more simplistic because it's going to remove that random RNG where, for example, if you're running a killable team inside Demon Lord, or if you just happen to get smacked when you don't have a block damage or an unkillable up, it's going to say, hey, you aren't going to crit me. We don't have to worry about it. We're so much more survivable. Now, not only that, but he also brings 3 poisons. One of the best single target poisoners inside the entire game, certainly at an epic level. He brings the poison sensitivity. He can also extend the debuffs, right? So it's a 100% chance of extending the debuffs. So if you're going against Demon Lord, he can basically just say, hey, there's always going to be poisons up on this guy. Don't worry about it. And then finally, this A1 is super good for really getting your damage higher inside a lot of content. So this A1 makes him viable inside Fire Knight, right? Because it, obviously, first of all, it's a triple hitting A1. Second of all, for Fire Knight, both normal and hard, you don't necessarily want to stack poisons because the strategy revolves around turn meter controlling the boss. So on normal, you don't want to stack poisons because he's never going to get a turn. On hard, you don't want to stack poisons because then you can't place your freezes. However, if you can detonate those poisons, right? If you can instantly activate those poisons, or if you can instantly activate HP burns, you're going to slam in with a bunch of damage. And keep in mind, he can also have like Giant Slayer and those sorts of things. And then you're also going to clear up that debuff bar for other things to go on there. When you look at something like Demon Lord Clan Boss, this is significant as well, because most times what happens is if you're running a poisoner, so like a Dracomorph, a Fane, and a Kemptum, those sorts of champions, they place the poisons all well and good, But eventually your debuff bar gets filled up, and then you just have poisons sitting there that the only time they're doing anything is when the Demon Lord takes a turn. So you're leaving a significant amount of damage on the table because, first of all, you can only stack a certain number of poisons, so you can only have 10 debuffs on an enemy at a time. So if you have like a decreased defense, decreased attack, and a weaken, you now can only have 7 poisons, right? So let's say the poisons all do 10,000 damage each. That's 70,000 damage per turn that the Demon Lord clan boss is going to take. You compare that with Dark Kael. If he pops 2 of those poisons, that's an instant 20,000 damage. Then he opens up 2 slots for somebody to come in and place additional poisons, which are going to do an extra 20,000 damage on top. So you can effectively output double the damage as long as he's activating enough poisons. So obviously, there's a bit of RNG there. It's not always going to be a 2x on the damage, but he can significantly boost up what you're doing. Now, in terms of blessing, I have him built out inside Phantom Touch. He is 1-star awakened, so nothing too crazy. Nature's Wrath is probably going to be the best way to build him, especially if you have him built with crit rate. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at his masteries. I do have him inside Giant Slayer. This is what I would recommend. Giant Slayer is going to be fantastic for anybody who has a triple hitting A1. On the right hand side, I come over here to Master Hexer, so he has the chance of extending the debuff duration. So that's going to include his decreased attacks, his poison sensitivities, his poisons, and all those sorts of good things. I have Sniper on him, so he has a chance of increased chance of placing the debuff. I don't think he actually needs that for his A1, but it is what it is. And then Evil Eye to decrease turn meter with his A1. So let's also go ahead and take a look at the build. These are his stats. So 49,000 HP, 2,800 on the defense, 2,600 on the attack, 201 on the speed, and no crit rate. So he's got 43% crit rate. Then we have 243 and 315 on the accuracy, or the resistance and the accuracy respectively. So a pretty okay build. Now, this video is obviously going to be titled How a Late Game Player Builds This Champion, right? How a late game player uses this champion. And there's been some people a little bit upsetty spaghetti inside my comments before saying, but I clicked on this video and you don't have the super meta build on this champion. So, like, how is this a late game build? And that's a perfectly valid question, to be honest. But here's the thing, right? I'm showing you how a late game player uses this guy. I use him inside Nether Spider, and that's pretty much it, in all honesty. So he's a very useful champion, but when you have an account that is as stacked as something like this, right, you're going to have so many champions that you probably don't even get to use anyways. And I can also show you the vault where I have even more champions in here. You're going to have so many champions that you don't even get to use that you're not necessarily going to be focused on every single champion, right? So I have gear on him. I have gear on him that's good enough for me to use him where I'm using him. And that's that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to tell you guys or walk you through how you want to build him. So priority stats, you're looking speed and accuracy pretty much in that order. You can then also branch out into attack, crit rate, crit damage if you need to. I would recommend building more so HP and defense just to keep him alive, because he doesn't have the craziest multipliers for damage. And really, he just has his A1 and his A2 that are going to do damage anyways. A3 is a non-hitting skill, and that's a big part of his kit too, so you don't have to worry about affinity matchups or anything like that with this A3. It'll just simply place. So in terms of gear sets, you're looking for things like perception, speed, any sort of a set that's really going to boost your damage, and also your accuracy specifically. So you could run him inside a toxic set if you prefer. I meant to say speed and accuracy, not boost your damage. You don't want him in savage or anything like that per se, but if we look through the sets, so speed is going to be fantastic. If you're early on, you could run him inside lifesteal as well. Having him in a curse set if you're using him inside Hydra, right? So he already has that AoE decreased attack as well as poison manipulations. You could go ahead and run a cursed on him so that he can, on his A2, spread a cursed debuff. You can also run him inside something like, for example, Relentless would be very strong on him. Like I mentioned, Toxic. Reflex would be very, very good as well, so that you can try to get those cooldowns down and cycle back around to the poisons a little bit quicker. One of the favorite builds I have would be running him inside Immortal as well as Regen. Which would essentially allow you to solo content with him. So, for example, you can solo Dragon, you can solo Ice Golem, those sorts of things, right, with this particular champion. Running him inside Perception's fantastic, like I mentioned. And then another option actually would be Frostbite. I always talk about the Frostbite set and how good it is, but I still don't think it gets the love that it deserves. This set is absolutely fantastic, especially if you're building him as a solo champion, right? So put him in Regeneration and Frostbite if you have it, or put him in 2 sets of Immortal, and then put him inside Frostbite, right? Another fantastic option, obviously, is going to be our Merciless set. Reason being, you're going to get Defense Ignore, you're going to get, obviously, the Reflex set from this as well, and then you're also having a chance to take an extra turn, which is going to be fantastic for a Poisoner. And then finally, you could also run him inside Pinpoint as well if you're using him in PvP for some reason. You're probably not going to be using him in PvP unless you're in, like, Bronze or Silver or something like that. So, all that being said, the gear that I have on him is not the best, but we're still going to go ahead and showcase how he's used, what he looks like, and all those sorts of good things. So we're going to go into Dragon 20 here. We're going to bring him in and essentially just do kind of like a damage test on him. Again, even though he's not really built for damage. So we're going to bring him in. We're then, as usual, going to bring in our Arbiter and our Lydia. Just to essentially give him some turn meter, increase attack, decrease defense on them. All those sorts of good things. Now, go ahead and take it off auto. We're going to boost up here. He's also very slow, so keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and hit the AoE here so you can see what it looks like. Boom! Takes a while to get there. We do an AoE about 13k, right? But we do also get that AoE decrease attack, right? So obviously a significant debuff to have out there if you're trying to survive or increase your survival. We're then going to go ahead and place the poisons here with his A3 so you can see what that's like. So boom, you can see we got the 3 poisons out there on the Apothecary, as well as the poison sensitivity, which obviously just increases poison damage taken, which is fantastic. If you run him with somebody else who's very strong at poisoning, so for example, if you run him with an Akemptum, where Akemptum can really just be good for duplicating those poisons out there, as well as popping the damage across the board, having him in that team is going to be fantastic. So I ran a team, for example, in Hard Spider, where it would be Dark Kael and Akemptum working together to take out the boss and the minions super quickly. I also want to call out, without question, the best relic to have on him at this point is a relic that I actually did a video about, which is the Arachne Elixir, where his poison debuffs are going to deal bonus damage equal to 50% of the wearer's attack. So obviously if you're using him in that, you just pump him full of attack, and then you'd go ahead and run him in the Arachne Elixir, and he's going to do significantly more damage. Like I mentioned as well, I'm not sure if we actually have it inside this rotation, but he's very, very useful for the Nether Spider. As you can see inside my Nether Spider team, I don't run him anymore. I used to, but essentially what he would do is he'd come in and he would do that single target poison against the boss, because the boss is not immune to poison. So when I didn't have the best champions or gear to take this down, I was essentially just doing like max survival and then just slowly poisoning the boss down. But now obviously I have, you know, Newt, who can come in here and just smack it around a little bit. Obviously I could also use Nishak, or not Nishak, sorry, I could use Marius inside this team, but I get away with using Ruella since she's a single target damage dealer anyways, who can help kill the boss. It's obviously a very slow fight, right? So it's 14 minutes to beat it. I did actually beat it with the Dark Kael team though, so it'd be significantly faster with the current team I'm showing you. But he has a lot of use there. Inside City of Centranos, right? So Cursed City, you can get a lot of use out of him as well. You'll see him popping up in these stages every so often. There's not really a stage currently where he's, you know, a best in slot or anything like that. So unfortunately I don't have, you know, the best example there, but every so often he will pop up. And then most notably for his use case, we do of course have the Dark Elf faction crypt that's open inside Hard Faction Wars as well. So he's significantly useful there with the AoE defense, or rather decrease attack, as well as obviously the poisons that he brings. So all that being said, Dark Kael is a absolutely fantastic champion. If you guys have him on your account, definitely don't hesitate to build him out. Don't take the fact that I don't actively use him as a negative. I would be 100% using him if I didn't have some crazy champions like Newt and Marius and those sorts of things. So if you're not at the point in the game where you have Newt and Marius, or, you know, if you just started and you just got him, or if you missed the Newt fusion, definitely build him out. He's going to help you take down bosses. He'll help you one key that Ultra Nightmare if you need to. That being said, though, there is a join button down below if you want to join the channel as a member, subscribe button as well. go ahead and hit the like there too. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.